Hope so far this makes sense. I know it's kind of a lot to take in, probably very new information for you, but we watched the video and it will start making sense little by little. This is basic stuff, believe it or not. So I'm trying to explain it in the best way possible, step by step. So yeah. All right. Now there's another thing that I do use as a POI, and that would be imbalance filled price action. So in short terms, IMB, also known as insufficiency fair value gap. So the way I use it, we have imbalance, right? This imbalance can be an entire point of interest, correct? So all of that can be a POI. However, what I want to see is price fill, and that's what you call imbalance fill price action. One price to fill. And this can also be considered a point of interest on a higher time frame. But like I mentioned, on a higher time frame POI, there's going to be most likely a breaker right here. So even though it's a imbalance fill on the lower time frame, it's an order block, it's a breaker, right? There's going to be something there. Instead of a higher time POI, there's always going to be something there. There's going to be a lower time frame POI. All right. And again, guys, the names don't matter. Breaker block, order block, it doesn't matter. They're all a point of interest. All right. They're all a point of interest. They all play the same role. So there's going to be a POI right there. So it will be imbalance plus breaker, let's say, breaker block. And then it drops. But I wanted to fill the imbalance. Right. And the reason I didn't mention this in the beginning is because, like I said, there's most likely going to be a POI regardless in the area, which will be a breaker or order block, right? Most likely it's a breaker, right? So, but once you see imbalance, preferably I would expect price to fill. And it doesn't always fill. It doesn't have to fill. It doesn't have to fill, right? But that's what we want to see it do. That's a high probable scenario. Okay. So now let's go and talk about the cons real quick. And by cons, I mean the negatives of imbalance. So the negative about imbalance is that, one, we know that price doesn't always gonna fill. Might go to the 50%, it might go just above it a bit and drop. And that's okay. That happens. There's nothing we can do, but there's one thing that you should know is that if the imbalance is huge like this, and if price is gonna take out this liquidity right there, these stops right there, right? It's gonna choose the closest POIs to liquidity. So in the smaller time frame, if you break it down, let's say 5 minute in there, you will see potentially a point of interest just above the liquidity. There's a high chance, I'm not gonna say always, but a high chance that price will tap into there and then drop. On a higher time frame, it's gonna look like it just came into the middle of nowhere. But in reality, it came into a lower time in POI. Remember what I said, the market is fractal, so is liquidity. All right. And you gotta be careful also when price comes up here. If it taps into a POI, fails to take out that low, that gave it a reason to now fill the imbalance. Are you starting to see how everything is coming together? How it's just clicking, which I hope it is. It's all coming together, right? Everything has a reason. It's part of a big puzzle, of a huge puzzle. But it's gonna take a lot of work, right? A lot of work to, understand all this and the real charts. So that would become the inducement for the imbalance, and then we look for shorts. And as you saw, I'll mark this up. That just created liquidity. Even a better reason, take this out of this, let's say range. to the downside, right? Now there is scenarios, same thing with an order block, where price will come into only the wick and drop. There is scenarios where price will come into the body, then drop. Okay. So there is a way to actually play this off. When there is imbalance, let's say, let me try this out better. When there is imbalance from here to here, and there's a wick, it's a high chance that's gonna tap into the wick and drop, and not into the body. When there is imbalance. When there is no imbalance, it's a high chance it's gonna tap into the body because the volume is in the body and then drop, right? But of course, regardless, they both need inducement or liquidity. So obviously liquidity is being formed right here, just below this wick. High chance of going to that. Like I mentioned, there's an order block and the open 50%. That's why it taps the open. That's why sometimes it taps the body. The wick. Okay. So again, you gotta see how price reacts. Comes in here, fails, it's a high chance it'll come to here, then drop. These are the cons. That's what I call cons. That is just something to be aware of. That of course cons be negative, but it's not really a negative thing. It's something to know because people only want to see the positive stuff and just win, 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 win. You have to understand the real life scenarios in the markets. You have to understand the negative, you have to understand the positive, both sides. So you won't be surprised if things like this happen. I'm showing you right now, I'm telling you right now, so you won't be surprised if it happens to you. Because it's gonna happen, right? What matters is that you understand the aftermath, right? So the same thing with all the POIs, all right? And again, everything is simply a point of interest for short term. All right. So now, where is my color? One last thing before we end this off here. We went over the order blocks, over the POIs. We went over how to refine them. And of course, if you're not going to refine them, then the entire thing becomes a point of interest with a confirmation in short. That's pretty obvious because it's a point of interest. But if you're going to take it directly, right, it has to line up with a lower time frame POI, stop loss on the lower time frame, that's a direct entry, right? And understand the con of this because it's going to be a direct entry. You have to be aware of how the market reacts. You have to be aware. Don't be surprised if this happens and then drops. You have to be aware, okay? You can do this, fail, go up, then drop. These two scenarios can happen. At the end of the day, it's either a yes, it meets my rules, or a no, it does not meet my rules. Again, all of this is basic stuff, guys. I know it may seem advanced to some of you, or brand new to some of you, but if you watch this video, go to the charts, try to practice this because it's very important that you put chart time in. All right. So let's see what I've got to cover. Yes. One more thing. Let's go back to the block that we had here. There's the key level. There's the lower time frame. There's the SL. SL right there. All right. There's the, let's say, inducement. Price taps into here, right? and then price fails to take out, let's say, this low right here. Then that gave it a reason to go up higher into here. Okay, and that is okay. There's nothing wrong with this. Right? Pretty much like the example I just mentioned, but there's nothing wrong with it hitting your SL. If you were not aware of it and it took your SL out, it doesn't mean this POI is invalid. It does not mean that. Okay, I want you to understand that you took a direct entry. Your entry was just not right, not the right time. Maybe you didn't see something. At the end of the day, it's going to be a human error. We can't blame the strategy. We can't blame the concepts. At the end of the day, it's a human error because I could have took a short here. I could have exited here and let's say made 5%, but maybe you took a loss and you blame it on the strategy. It's not the strategy, it's human error. Every error that you have is going to be human made. Like I mentioned, it's not an easy strategy, but the reward is going to be phenomenal. So then took SL here, and let's say that you were like, yeah, this is not gonna hold, and then I show it here again, then it drops. And then your confidence just goes out the window, right? So understand the cons, understand the pros of everything, of every concept, of every little detail, understand both sides, the positive and the negative. So that way, no surprise, or there won't be no surprises. So I'm gonna end it off here. That's all I have to cover about POIs. That's all I use to identify POI. That's how we will catch a direct entry. Even though it's not about entries, I still showed you how we'll catch one and how we refine our POIs. That's our only refinement. There is no other refinement of a POI. That's it. Higher time frame, key level, drop down, lines up with a lower time frame, stop loss on the lower time frame, POI. That's it. That's our only refinement. There's nothing else to it. That'll be it for this. Like always, any questions, let me know. On to the next one.